She stood in front of him, the weight of her 300-pound frame towering over the human like a mountain. Her green skin glowed under the dim, flickering lights of the spaceship, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Her armor, sleek and futuristic, clung to her body, emphasizing the strength hidden beneath her muscles. The human male, barely half her size, looked up at her in sheer disbelief. "Do you really think you can win?" She sneered, her voice a low growl that reverberated through the cold, metallic walls of the ship. The human's heart raced, sweat beaded on his forehead, and his hands trembled as he tried to find the courage to stand tall. He was no warrior, no fighter, just a man who had stumbled into the wrong place at the wrong time. But even in his fear, there was something stubborn about him, something that wouldn't allow him to give up without a fight. "I can handle this," he muttered under his breath, taking a step back. The alien smirked at his attempt to defy her. Her green eyes glinted with amusement, but there was no kindness in them, only the cold, calculating gaze of a predator. Her lips curled into a cruel smile as she stepped forward. Each movement of hers was like watching a force of nature in motion, unavoidable and inevitable. She didn't need to rush. She knew she was in control. "You're wasting your time," she purred, her voice dripping with condescension. "You can barely stand up to me, let alone defeat me. You think you stand a chance?" The human shook his head, trying to steady himself. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, a drumbeat of fear. His legs felt weak, and his thoughts were clouded by the overwhelming size and strength of this alien who towered over him. "You're pathetic," she whispered, stepping closer, her voice soft yet filled with venom. She was close enough now for him to feel the heat radiating from her body, the tension in the air becoming unbearable. The human could smell her scent, a strange combination of metal, sweat, and something otherworldly. It made his head spin. He swallowed hard, desperate to focus, but there was no escaping her presence. Her fingers brushed against his chest, and he froze. There was no tenderness in her touch, only the certainty that she could crush him if she wished. "Tell me, human, do you feel the power I have over you?" she asked, her lips curling into a smirk. "You can fight, but you'll only lose. It's just a matter of time." The human opened his mouth to speak, but the words died on his lips. She was right. He was no match for her. She was a force of nature, an unstoppable tide. And he was just a man. Her hand slid from his chest to his throat, her fingers closing around his neck with terrifying ease. He gasped, struggling for breath as her grip tightened, her strength evident in every inch of her body. She was so strong, so powerful. He felt himself becoming lightheaded as he fought for air. His vision began to blur, and for a moment, he thought he might pass out. But then, just as quickly, she released him. He stumbled backward, gasping for breath, his hands clutching at his throat. "Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you yet," she said with a laugh that made his blood run cold. "But you should know, I'm just getting started. I have all the time in the universe, and you, well, you're just a human." Her eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, the human saw something different in her gaze. It was no longer just contempt, no longer just superiority. There was something else there, something darker. The alien took a slow step back, her expression shifting from amusement to cold calculation. "I could kill you right now, you know, but where's the fun in that?" The human's knees buckled beneath him, and he collapsed to the floor. His heart was racing, and his mind was spinning. She was right, he had no chance against her. She was too powerful, too ruthless. But even as fear gripped him, something else stirred deep inside him. A sense of defiance. "I won't just roll over and die," he said through gritted teeth, his voice hoarse. The alien tilted her head, an amused glint flickering in her eyes. She stepped forward, towering over him once again. "Is that so? You really think you can stand up to me? You're just a human." She reached down, effortlessly lifting him by his collar. Her strength was terrifying, but so was her beauty. There was something strangely alluring about her, something that made his pulse race in a way he couldn't explain. "Tell me, human," she said with a wicked grin. "What will you do? How will you stop me?" He swallowed hard, trying to focus on the moment. He had to find a way out of this. But the only thing he could feel was her overpowering presence, The alien was right, he was nothing compared to her. And then she leaned in closer, her lips almost brushing his ear. "You're mine, for now." His blood ran cold, and he couldn't breathe. The tension in the air was unbearable. The human realized, with a sickening jolt, that he had no escape. But just as the alien was about to make her next move, the ship's lights flickered, and a loud, distant explosion rocked the ship. Both of them froze, looking toward the source of the noise. The moment was interrupted. The alien let out a frustrated growl and dropped him to the floor. "What the hell was that?" she muttered under her breath, her expression darkening. As the human tried to regain his breath, he couldn't help but wonder, would he ever escape her grasp? Or was this the beginning of something much worse? "What do you think, human? Can you truly escape her power, or will you crumble beneath her strength?" Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The explosion echoed through the halls of the spaceship, sending a shudder through the walls. For a brief moment, the alien's fierce gaze shifted, her expression faltering as she turned towards the distant noise. The human on the ground couldn't help but seize the opportunity. His body ached, his throat burned from her earlier grip, but a glimmer of hope sparked in his chest. He scrambled to his feet, his knees shaking. He knew it wouldn't be long before she turned back to him. This was his chance. If he could just— "Don't think you're escaping." The alien's voice was low, dangerous, cutting through the tension in the air. He froze, the human's breath caught in his throat, and every muscle in his body stiffened. She had sensed his movement. The predator was back, and the prey was him. She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing as she saw the struggle in his posture. "You really thought I'd let you run," she said, stepping forward with the confidence of a conqueror. "You can barely stand, and you think you'll escape her." Words were sharp, yet there was a hint of amusement. She wasn't threatened by him, not at all. If anything, it was more of a game to her. The alien took another step, her heavy footsteps ringing out through the corridor. Each one seemed to shake the ground beneath his feet, adding weight to his desperation. The human, heart racing, backed away slowly, not daring to turn his back on her. "Every step you take, I can see your fear," she continued, her voice a venomous whisper. "It's written all over you. Your thoughts are so easy to read." The human's thoughts were a mess of panic and frustration. He was still trying to understand why she hadn't killed him already. He didn't have the strength to fight back, not against someone like her. But maybe if he could buy himself some time. "Why are you letting me live?" he gasped, his voice barely above a whisper. The alien's grin widened, revealing sharp teeth. "Because I like the idea of you squirming. It makes this so much more fun." Her eyes sparkled with malicious delight as she stepped closer, her shadow swallowing him whole. The fear in his chest grew heavier. But there was something else too, something dangerous that made him feel even more exposed. She reached out, her hand brushing against his cheek, her touch surprisingly soft. It was almost mocking. "I could end you right now," she said, her voice a low, seductive whisper. "But then, where's the fun in that?" The human, despite himself, shuddered at the feel of her fingers on his skin. He hated the way her presence overwhelmed him, the way she made him feel so small, so weak. But there was something else too, something that confused him, a strange, twisted attraction, pulling at him in ways he couldn't explain. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," the alien purred. Most humans would have already crumbled by now. She didn't wait for him to respond. In a flash, she gripped his arm, lifting him effortlessly from the ground. Her strength was unmatched, like the grip of a giant. She didn't seem to notice his struggle as he gasped for air, trying to fight against her hold. "You think you stand a chance?" she mocked. "You can barely breathe, and you're still trying to fight me?" She laughed, a low, throaty sound that sent chills down his spine. The human tried to move, to push her away, but his body felt like lead. The alien's grip tightened, and he could feel his bones creaking under the pressure. Panic surged inside him, but his mind was clouded with confusion. Was this the end? Or was there more to this situation than he understood? He looked into her eyes, and for a brief moment, he saw something flicker there, something he hadn't expected. It was a brief moment of hesitation, a flicker of doubt. Could she have felt something more than just cruelty toward him? The thought was fleeting, almost laughable, but it gnawed at him. Before he could process any further, the alien's grip loosened, but she didn't let go entirely. She was just toying with him. She could have ended him in an instant, yet here she was, keeping him alive. For now, she pulled him closer, her breath hot on his ear. "You're not getting away that easily, but I'll let you have a little fun while you can." The human shivered, trying to ignore the way his body betrayed him. His instinct screamed for him to run, to escape, but he knew it was futile. She was too powerful. "Tell me, human," she whispered, "do you enjoy being in this position? Do you like the idea of being crushed under my power?" Her voice was both seductive and threatening, and her words seemed to send a jolt through him. She was using him, playing with him like a toy, and he hated it, but a small part of him wanted to prove her wrong. "You're right, I am weak," the human spat, pushing back with what little strength he had. "But I'll never bow to you." Her laugh was low and dark. "We'll see about that." And then, without warning, she shoved him against the wall, the force of her strength knocking the wind out of him. He gasped for air, his body aching, and just as quickly, she leaned in again, her lips close to his ear. "Tell me, human," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. "How long do you think you'll last? A minute? An hour? Or maybe will you crumble even before that?" The human's pulse quickened as he fought to stand tall. There had to be a way out, right? But as the alien's footsteps grew louder and her grip grew tighter, he couldn't shake the feeling that his time was running out. Was there any way to escape her grasp? Or was he destined to be crushed beneath her strength? Can you survive the alien's power, or will you crumble like the others? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The ship groaned as another explosion rocked the hull, sending vibrations throughout the narrow corridor. The alien paused, her head tilting slightly, listening intently. Her keen senses could detect every shift in the air, every tiny sound. But this time, something had changed. The human, still slumped against the wall, could barely breathe, let alone stand. His body was bruised, aching from the relentless force she had imposed on him. "Another disturbance," the alien muttered, more to herself than to him, her sharp gaze scanning the corridors. "Something's wrong." The human, disoriented and still gasping for air, looked up. This was his moment. He didn't know why she was distracted or what had caused the explosion, but he knew that whatever it was, it had given him a chance. His legs felt like jelly, but he pushed himself upright, steadying himself against the cold, metallic wall of the ship. "You won't get far," the alien sneered, sensing his attempt to move. She turned back to face him, her expression colder than before. She hadn't lost interest in him, no. He was still her prey, and her game was far from over. But something had shifted in her gaze, something dark and predatory. "Are you so eager to die?" she asked, her voice dripping with contempt. "You really think you can escape me? You think you can outsmart me?" Her words should have crushed him, but instead, a fire ignited in his chest. His mind raced with possibilities. What if he could turn the tables? What if the alien underestimated him? The human's heart hammered in his chest, his survival instincts kicking in. He had nothing left to lose. "I'm not running," he spat, his voice raw, barely a whisper. "I'm just getting started." The alien chuckled darkly, walking slowly toward him. Her footsteps were deliberate, confident. She didn't need to rush. She knew she had him. She could feel the pulse of fear radiating from him. But there was something else too, something strange, something that made her pause for a fraction of a second, an emotion she couldn't quite place. What was it? Hope, defiance, or was it something more dangerous? "You should be begging for mercy," she growled, her voice low, filled with raw power. She reached for him again, her hand grabbing his collar, lifting him effortlessly from the floor. "But no, you still want to fight me." The human struggled to breathe under her grip. His chest felt tight, his heart racing. His hands instinctively tried to pry her fingers off, but they were like iron. There was no escaping her. No matter how much he fought, she was in control. But then something unexpected happened. She didn't tighten her grip, didn't crush him as she had before. Instead, she pulled him closer, bringing their faces almost nose to nose. The heat from her breath washed over him, making his skin tingle with a strange mix of fear and Something else, I think you're enjoying this, she said, her tone now dripping with amusement. This isn't the first time I've had a human like you struggle beneath me. They all break. Eventually, the human didn't answer. What could he say? He could feel his pulse pounding in his ears, his body shaking, but there was something else, something twisted, something he couldn't deny. A part of him was drawn to her strength. He hated the way she made him feel small, helpless, but another part of him couldn't help but admire it. Her fingers brushed against his skin again, the touch somehow soft despite her unrelenting power. Why do you keep resisting? She purred, her lips curling into a teasing smile. You could have everything you've ever wanted. You could bend to me. Let me show you your place. The human's mind reeled, struggling to make sense of the strange emotions swirling inside him. He hated her, hated how she made him feel weak. But then again, there was something undeniably magnetic about her. Go to hell, he managed to growl, though his voice faltered slightly. I'll never bow to you. The alien's smile widened, and for a moment, there was a flicker of something almost human in her gaze. You've got fire, she said, her voice now almost tender, yet laced with an undeniable darkness. I'm curious to see how long it will take before you break. But then, as quickly as it had come, the softness in her expression disappeared, replaced with the cold, ruthless glint of her eyes. The alien tightened her grip once more, pulling him off his feet and slamming him against the wall. Enough games, she hissed. You'll learn your place. For a moment, the world spun around the human, his mind clouded by the pressure of her strength. His thoughts were a jumbled mess of fear, defiance, and something else. He didn't know how much longer he could hold on. She was relentless, and the more she tested him, the more he felt himself slipping. But just as he thought he might lose consciousness, another explosion rocked the ship. This time, the tremors were stronger, and the lights flickered as alarms blared through the ship's loudspeakers. The alien's focus shifted once again. She looked toward the source of the disturbance, her expression momentarily distracted. What the hell is going on? She muttered, her grip loosening slightly as she turned to investigate the situation. The human took his chance, shoving her off with whatever strength he could muster. He didn't know how much time he had, but he knew this was his only opportunity. He scrambled to his feet, every muscle in his body screaming in protest, but he didn't stop. His survival instinct had kicked in. He didn't care if he was injured. He didn't care if he was weak. This was his chance to escape. But the alien wasn't far behind. As he turned the corner of the corridor, her voice echoed behind him, cold and filled with promise. You're not escaping me, human. This isn't over. The human's heart pounded as he ran, every step feeling like it could be his last. Was this it? Would he ever make it out of here alive? Or was he just running toward his inevitable end? The human's heart raced as he ran, his breath ragged and desperate, the echo of his footsteps mingling with the relentless alarm blaring through the corridors. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to get away, even if for just a few seconds. He needed a moment to think, a moment to breathe. Behind him, the alien's footsteps were unmistakable. Her heavy, confident strides thundered against the metal floor, closing the distance between them with every passing second. He could hear her growl, that dark, dangerous sound that sent shivers down his spine. You can't outrun me, human. Her voice rang out, colder than the vacuum of space. No matter how fast you run, you're still just a fragile little thing. His eyes darted around, desperately searching for something, anything that could slow her down. But the ship's endless metallic corridors seemed to stretch forever. There were no doors, no hiding places, just the cold, unfeeling metal, and the sound of her footsteps drawing nearer. The human's lungs burned. He could feel his legs giving way, but he pushed himself harder. His hands grasped the walls for support as he rounded another corner, his mind buzzing with fear and frustration. He wasn't a fighter. He wasn't trained for this, but something inside him refused to give up. It wasn't pride or bravery. It was sheer survival. Suddenly, he turned a corner and found himself in a large, open space, a cargo hold, by the looks of it. He stopped for a split second, his mind racing. There were crates and equipment scattered around, but none of it would help him. There was no way to escape here. And then, The sound of her footsteps stopped. He froze. For a moment, there was silence and eerie calm that left him uncertain. Had she stopped chasing him? Was she playing with him? Before he could make sense of the silence, a low chuckle cut through the air. The alien stepped into the cargo hold, her massive frame filling the doorway. She didn't even need to say anything. Her expression said it all. She was enjoying this. You thought you could get away. Her voice was taunting, almost playful. She took a step forward, her gaze locking onto him with cold amusement. You can't escape me, human. You're mine. The human's pulse spiked again. He was cornered, trapped in a room with no way out. Why are you doing this? His voice was a mix of fear and defiance. Why keep me alive? What do you want from me? The alien's lips curled into a wicked smile. She stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. Because you amuse me, she purred. It's fun to watch you struggle, to see how long it takes for you to realize that there's no escape. Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper, as she moved even closer. And I think you might just like it, too. You're not like the others. You've got something different. Something I'm curious about. She was so close now that he could feel the heat radiating from her body, smell the metallic tang of her armor. His heart raced, his body tense, ready to bolt at the slightest chance. But his mind was in chaos. Fear mingled with something else. He didn't want to admit it, but a part of him was drawn to her power. The way she dominated every room, every situation. It disgusted him, yet he couldn't look away. What are you doing to me? He muttered, almost to himself. His breath came out shaky as he tried to keep his distance. The alien tilted her head, her sharp eyes gleaming with a mixture of amusement and something darker. I'm not doing anything to you. You're doing this to yourself. You're letting yourself be overwhelmed. She reached out, her fingers brushing lightly against his cheek, sending a shiver down his spine. You're so desperate to escape me, and yet I can see the way your body responds, the way you're drawn to my power. He recoiled, but it was useless. There was nowhere to go. The alien was too fast, too strong. I'll never bend to you. He spat, his voice shaking with determination. Her eyes darkened with amusement. You'll learn. Everyone does. Without warning, she grabbed his wrist and twisted, forcing him to the ground. The human's breath was knocked out of him as he landed hard on the cold metal floor. He gasped for air, trying to fight back, but she was on top of him in an instant, pinning him down with an effortless strength he couldn't match. You think you're strong? She hissed, her voice filled with mockery. You're nothing. He struggled beneath her, trying to push her off, but she was too powerful. He could feel her weight pressing down on him, her body solid and unyielding. The alien's face was inches from his now, her hot breath against his skin. She looked at him with that same cruel amusement, savoring every second of his helplessness. You don't get it, do you? She whispered, her lips brushing against his ear. You'll never be able to escape me. You'll never be able to fight me. You're mine now. The words sent a shiver through him, something he couldn't explain. His body tensed, but he fought to keep control. He would not let her break him. Not like this. And just as the alien was about to make her next move, a sudden explosion rattled the ship once more, shaking the entire room. The lights flickered violently, and the ship groaned as if it were about to split in two. The alien's grip faltered for just a moment, and that was enough. The human seized the opportunity. He pushed against her, his strength coming from a place of sheer desperation, and managed to roll her off him. He scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. In his chest, the alien growled in frustration, her eyes flashing with fury as she rose to her feet. You can't escape me forever, human, she snarled, her voice thick with menace. I'll be back for you, and next time, there will be no running. The human turned and bolted, his feet pounding against the cold metal floor as the ship continued to tremble around him. Was this the end? Was there any chance of survival left? One thing was certain: he couldn't outrun her forever, but he would keep fighting. The human's breath came in short, panic bursts as he sprinted through the ship's endless corridors. His legs felt like lead, his body exhausted and bruised, but his mind was clear. For the first time since he'd been thrown into this deadly game, he was in control. At least for now. The ship groaned again, Another distant explosion rocking its metal bones. The alarms blared louder, the emergency lights flashing in red, casting the Carters in an eerie, almost haunting glow. His heart pounded, but it wasn't just fear now, it was something else, determination. If he could keep running, keep moving, maybe, just maybe, he could escape her grasp. The alien was still behind him. He could feel it. He didn't need to hear her footsteps to know she was coming. He could feel her presence, like a shadow looming over him, just waiting to strike. Every corner he turned felt like a dead end, every turn he made, a mistake. But he couldn't stop. Not now. Not when he finally had a sliver of hope. He rounded a corner, heart racing, eyes wide with fear, and slammed right into a solid figure. It wasn't the alien. He stumbled backward, falling hard to the floor, groaning in pain as his head hit the metal ground. He blinked rapidly, trying to focus on the figure that had stopped him. A second alien, this one much smaller than the first. She was wearing the same sleek, futuristic armor, but her posture was different, calmer, more controlled. The human tried to scramble to his feet, his body already exhausted. Who are you?" he gasped, struggling to push himself up. The smaller alien didn't speak at first. Instead, she just stared at him with a cool, calculating gaze. Her eyes flickered briefly to the corridor behind him, and then back to him. She didn't seem as threatening as the other one, but there was no mistaking that she was just as dangerous. "I'm not here to kill you," she said finally, her voice surprisingly calm. "But I'm not here to help you either." The human's eyes widened in confusion. He had expected her to grab him, to do whatever the other alien had planned. Instead, she just stood there, watching him with those cold, emotionless eyes. "What do you want from me?" His voice was ragged, his breath shallow. He had no idea if this alien was going to be his savior or his doom. She took a step forward, her gaze never leaving his. "The other one, she's relentless. But she's not the only one interested in you." The human blinked, his mind racing. What was she talking about? "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. The smaller alien leaned down, her helmet tilting just slightly as she studied him. "You've caught the attention of someone much more important than you realize," she said softly, almost as if she were speaking to herself. "And that's not a good thing for you." Before the human could respond, he heard it. The unmistakable sound of footsteps, heavy, confident, and filled with rage. The alien who had been chasing him was near. The smaller alien turned, her face betraying no emotion. "You'd better keep running," she said, straightening up. "The game's just begun. And now, you've got a new player." Before the human could process her words, she vanished down another corridor, leaving him with only the sound of her footsteps fading into the distance. He was alone again, but now there was a new threat, and the situation had just grown far more complicated. He turned, ready to make a break for it. But it was too late. The towering figure of the first alien appeared in the corridor ahead, her eyes locked on him, burning with fury. The grin that spread across her face was more terrifying than anything he had seen so far. "You really thought you could run, didn't you?" she purred, her voice low and filled with malice. "Did you think she was going to save you?" The human's stomach churned. He had no choice now. He wasn't fast enough. He wasn't strong enough. He could feel his body trembling with exhaustion, his mind clouded with doubt. "I'm not finished with you yet," the alien growled, taking another step toward him. "You're mine." But then, something unexpected happened. The ship lurched violently, throwing the human off balance. The alien, too, stumbled slightly, her grip loosening for a moment. The ship was shaking, as if something massive had collided with it. Another explosion rattled the walls, but this one was closer, much closer. The alien's expression flickered. For a moment, she turned toward the source of the disturbance, her eyes narrowing in suspicion. "What's going on?" she hissed, clearly agitated. The human, still on the ground, barely able to keep himself upright, didn't waste a second. He pushed himself up with all the strength he had left and took off again, desperate for any chance to escape. He didn't know if the smaller alien had something to do with the explosion, or if it was just the ship falling apart, but now was his chance. The alien turned back, seeing him run, her eyes blazing with fury. "You can't keep running from me forever, human," she screamed after him. He didn't care. He kept running. The ship groaned once more, this time louder than before, as if it was slowly coming apart. The human didn't look back. Every muscle in his body screamed in protest, but his mind focused solely on one thing: escape. His feet pounded against the metal floor, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know what awaited him. But he knew one thing: he couldn't stop. Not now. He couldn't let her catch him, not again. The alarms screamed louder. The sound of distant explosions echoed. But in the chaos, there was one question that haunted him. Would he survive this? Time. The ship's walls shuddered once again, and the alarms blared louder, signaling another massive explosion. The human's heart raced in sync with the vibrations, the air thick with smoke and panic. The corridor he was running through seemed endless, stretching further into the abyss. The red emergency lights flickered as they bathed everything in an eerie glow, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for him, pulling him deeper into the nightmare. But there was no turning back now. He couldn't afford to stop. His legs felt like they were made of lead, each step heavier than the last, but he forced himself to keep moving. His thoughts were scattered fear, adrenaline, confusion, all swirling inside him as the ship around him continued to tremble. What was happening? Was it the explosions? Was it the aliens' wrath? Or was something else going on? But there was no time to think. The alien's voice rang out behind him, filled with pure rage. "You can't run forever, human, this time. You won't get away." He heard her footsteps again, heavy and purposeful, as she closed in. The sound of her chase was like a drumbeat, growing louder with every second. He could hear the blood rushing in his ears, feel his chest tightening. With each breath, panic clawed at him, urging him to run faster. But it was hard to focus when his body was screaming in protest. Suddenly, he turned another corner, only to be met with a dead end. His heart dropped. The only way out was behind him, and she was getting closer. He spun around, looking for anything that could help him. His mind raced, trying to think of a plan, a way out. The walls were lined with more of the same metallic surfaces, and the floor beneath him was slick with the remnants of the ship's instability. There were no doors, no hiding places, just the looming figure of the alien coming closer. The human's eyes flicked to the far side of the corridor. There, amidst the wreckage, was an old maintenance hatch, slightly ajar. His pulse spiked. It was a long shot, but it was the only shot he had. Without a second thought, he ran for it, ignoring the burning in his muscles as he threw himself toward the hatch. He had no idea where it led, but anywhere was better than being caught by her. As his hand gripped the edge of the hatch, he heard her voice again, chilling in its finality. "No more running, human. This ends now." He shoved the hatch open, his heart pounding as he slipped inside, barely avoiding the alien's outstretched arm. The hatch slammed shut behind him, plunging him into darkness. He gasped for breath, trying to steady himself as his eyes adjusted to the dim light in the narrow space. The air was musty and thick with dust, and the walls were covered in grime. It wasn't much, but it was something, an escape, however temporary. The human pressed his back against the cold metal, trying to make himself as small as possible. He couldn't hear her anymore, but that didn't mean he was safe. The ship was still shaking, still groaning under the weight of whatever was happening, and the explosions were getting closer. For a moment, all he could do was breathe, trying to steady the panic that was threatening to overwhelm him. Sweat dripped down his face, and his hands were shaking uncontrollably. He didn't know how much longer he could keep running. His body was breaking down, and the alien's presence was still haunting him. She was relentless. She was everywhere. But then, as he waited in the dark, his ears caught a strange sound. It wasn't the alien. It wasn't the ship groaning. It was a voice, soft, almost whispered. "You're not alone." The human's eyes snapped open, his heart skipping a beat. He was sure he had heard someone else. He stood, tense and ready to bolt again, but the voice came again, clearer this time. "We've been watching you." The human's breath caught in his throat. What was this? Who was speaking? Before he could react, there was a sudden rush of movement. The hatch behind him was pulled open with a force that rattled the walls. The human spun around, but there was no alien in sight. Instead, a figure stepped through the opening, one that wasn't like the others. It was another alien. But this one was different. The armor was darker, sleeker, and she moved with an eerie grace, like she belonged in the shadows. Her eyes glowed faintly, but unlike the others, there was no malice in her gaze, only a cold, calculating intelligence. Who are you?" the human demanded, his voice shaky, but the survival instinct still sharp in his words. The figure didn't immediately answer. Instead, she stepped closer, her gaze scanning him, calculating his every move. There was no sign of the aggressive force he had seen in the others. This alien was different, more controlled, more deliberate. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, her voice steady and calm, yet her words held an undeniable weight. "But you've made a mistake. You've caught the attention of someone who will stop at nothing to have you." The human's mind raced, his chest tightening in fear. "What are you talking about?" She took another step closer, her eyes narrowing slightly. "You're more than just a human. You're a key, and now you're stuck in a game you can't win." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He had no idea what she meant, but one thing was certain: this wasn't over. Whatever game he had been dragged into, it was only just beginning. The human's mind was racing, trying to make sense of the alien's cryptic words. His chest heaved with every breath, the sound of his heartbeat filling his ears. He couldn't understand. He couldn't wrap his head around the idea that he was more than just a human, more than just a prey for the alien he had been running from. The mysterious alien before him remained silent, her cold, calculating eyes never leaving him. Her presence was unnerving, like she was measuring him, figuring him out piece by piece. There was no threat in her demeanor, no sense of urgency. But the weight of her words, the way she spoke with such certainty, was enough to make him question everything he thought he knew. "You're not alone," she repeated softly, her voice as calm as the deep space outside the ship. "They've been watching you for a long time. It's why she gestured toward the corridor, chased you. You don't understand, do you?" The human shook his head, too stunned to speak. What was she talking about? He had no idea who they were, or why he was suddenly at the center of some unknown conflict. The alien stepped closer, her glowing eyes narrowing as if she were making a decision. "You're a pawn in a much bigger game, human, and I've come to collect you before it's too late." The human's body stiffened. He backed away, the walls of the narrow maintenance room closing in on him. "Collect me? What the hell are you talking about?" He was desperate now, but the fear was overshadowed by confusion. She took another step forward, and the human instinctively held up his hands, backing into the cold metal walls. "You don't have to be afraid," she said. Her voice was still, calm, but there was an edge to it now. "I'm not going to kill you, at least not yet." The human glared at her. "What do you want from me?" "I want to help you," she said, her tone suddenly softer. "The ones who are after you, your captors, they're not the only ones who are interested in you. There are others, powerful factions, and they won't stop until they have what you carry." The words hit him like a slap to the face. "What I carry?" he echoed, utterly baffled. "I'm just a human. There's nothing special about me. I'm just trying to survive." The alien tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "You have something inside you. A key, if you will." She paused. "You may not understand it now, but the time will come when you will." A key to what? The human's mind raced, trying to piece together this strange puzzle. Who was this alien? What was she talking about? He didn't feel special. He didn't feel like a key to anything. He was just trying to survive. "I'm not your key," he muttered, trying to hold on to some semblance of control. "I don't even know what you're talking about." The alien's eyes softened, almost with sympathy. "That's what they want you to believe. The truth is, you're in more danger than you realize. And unless you learn to understand what you have," she trailed off, letting the words hang in the air like a dark promise. The human swallowed hard, his throat dry. He didn't know what to make of any of this. But one thing was clear. There was more to the ship, more to the situation, than he could comprehend. Just as the silence became unbearable, another explosion rocked the ship. The sound reverberated through the walls, louder and more intense than ever before. The lights flickered violently, and the entire room shook, throwing both of them off balance. The human barely managed to stay on his feet, his body slamming into the metal wall as the alien steadied herself with ease. What the hell was that? The human shouted over the growing chaos. The alien didn't answer immediately. She stared at him, her face grim as the alarms blared. "It's starting," she said, her voice tinged with urgency. "They're coming for you." Before the human could respond, the lights flickered again, and the ship's power systems groaned in protest. The alien grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the far side of the maintenance room where a small hatch door lay hidden in the shadows. "You need to come with me, now," she ordered. "What about the alien chasing me?" The human gasped, trying to break free from her grip. "She's not going to stop. She's going to find me. I told you. She's not the only one," the alien snapped, pulling him toward the hatch. "You don't understand. The explosion wasn't just an accident, it's a signal. They've found us. They've found you." The human's pulse spiked. A signal. He felt his stomach drop. "Who are they?" he demanded. "Who's coming for me?" The alien didn't answer. She opened the hatch, revealing a narrow passageway leading into the ship's lower levels. The ship was already falling apart around them. Explosions, fire, and sparks filled the air. "I don't have time to explain," she said. "We need to move now." The human hesitated, the weight of the situation crashing down on him. He had no choice. If he didn't go with her, he was as good as dead. The alien pushed him into the dark corridor, and the hatch slammed shut behind them. With each step they took, the human couldn't shake the thought gnawing at him. What was it inside of him that everyone wanted? And why was he at the center of a war he didn't even understand? Can the human trust the mysterious alien, or is he walking straight into a trap? Will he survive the dangers ahead, or will the truth destroy him? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.